Hi, welcome to this episode of Write With Me at IELTS Juice. We're going to plan a Task 1 letter today, and here's the rubric that we are going to talk about and discuss today. It says, you share a parking area with several neighbors and have recently started having problems. I need to say two elements here. One, this is a place where you live with several neighbors. Not one, not two, not three, several. So maybe 10, 20, 50 neighbors. Imagine a building complex like that. And element number two is something interesting. This is not a problem that happens all the time. You have recently noticed that such a problem exists. Look at the grammar. What's the grammar? Present perfect. So this is something recent. Please be very, very careful. It's something like you have noticed recently. It can be one thing or it can be a series of elements. In this case, it's plural, so it is a group of different problems, but the tense, the grammatical tense matters. What are we going to do about them? The issues that we just have recently realized there are. We need to write a letter, and the letter needs to be copied. So there are going to be carbon copies of the same letter for all neighbors, but not all of them. Look at the rubric. It says to all neighbors that share the parking area. It's important. They share the parking area. And in the letter, you need to explain the problems. It's plural. You need to suggest ways to help the situation. Again, ways, it's plural. And you need to propose a possible meeting. So in the end, your goal is to create a collective effort of all the people who share the same parking area with you to make an effort into solving these problems. After reading the rubric carefully, now it's our time to actually address it. So, how do we do that? First, we need to decide if this is a formal letter or it's an informal letter. What do you think? Correct. This is a formal letter. So we say goodbye to this. You are going to talk to a group of neighbors. So you need to maintain a very formal, respectful tone throughout your letter. And you're going to talk to, imagine 50 different families with the backgrounds and different attitudes. So it's quite difficult. That's why you need to maintain the formal tone. Now, before we start, we need to come up with a scenario. So you need to think in your head, what type of problems can come? You can say like, oh, there are children playing in the area where cars are normally parked. You can say, oh, the other day I saw a stranger looking through a window of one of the cars parked down there. And when I shouted, that person ran away. So you need to check the security cameras. You need to check, maybe you want to hire a security guard, or you want to check cameras. You need to, I don't know, whatever. If maybe you need to have a dog at the gate. It doesn't matter. You can come up with these scenarios in your head. You can even say like, yeah, there are some shops opening up here and there, and the people, when they go shopping and they come back to the yard or the parking area, there's a lot of trash here and there, and that can be an issue, and it may affect, it certainly affects the life of the people who live in that area. These are the scenarios you need to come up with. You must start thinking like a film director. And in your head, you need to picture yourself in a building complex who owns a car, and there are 50 families, and there are maybe 30 cars, or in some countries, maybe there are even more than 50 cars, more than one car per family. So you need to come up with these elements in your head. Picture that scenario in your head. Once that's over, we start. Your salutation is the part that you say, "Dear neighbors." It's formal, it's to the point, and since it's going to be copied, we don't say names here. We cannot say "Dear Mr. Smith" or "Dear Sir" or "Madam." Basically, because you want to have this sense of community. So you can like, by saying "Dear neighbors," it kind of tells you that you are part of the community, something like that. Or you can say "Dear resident," and the resident, you should come up with a name of a complex. Then this, instead of introduction, this one body paragraph and this one conclusion, they have their own different names. Body paragraphs remain the same. Body is body. But instead of introduction, we now have something called an opening paragraph. And an opening paragraph needs an opening statement. Opening statement is one sentence that you need to say why a person, an important person, because it's a formal letter, why an important person is reading your letter in the first place. You need to mention that you are reading regarding the recent problem that you have seen, or recent problems that you have seen in the shared parking area. And you might want to give, because it has to be a paragraph, so don't say just one sentence. It has to be a paragraph, and you might come up with some connecting information. You can even say a story. You can say, the other day, there's too much trash in the parking area. Or you might say, oh, the asphalt quality, or if it's cobbled with stone, whatever, the pavement is not good. It needs some repair, because the other day my one of my tires went to this ditch, or uh, I had a flat tire, and I had to pay this much money to fix uh, that part of the asphalt, or I had to fix the tire. I had to buy a spare tire that cost me this much, that much. You can come up with a story why suddenly it triggered in you to write this letter. Hopefully, you can even say something dramatic. Maybe children were playing in the parking yard, and in the parking area, and one of them fell and had a broken hand. That can happen. I hope that, I mean, I'm just making an example. I hope that doesn't happen to any child. And the third one is this is optional, because if you do these two well, you don't need this, and you already have a functioning paragraph because you have two sentences. But if you need to just make it complete, and you need to know all the elements, the third sentence would be an overview of what they expect to see. And you can say, in this letter, I am going to specifically talk about problems A and B, and I have solutions for that. And hopefully, in the end, we can have a meeting where collectively we can solve it together, or we can solve the problems together. Now let's focus on the body paragraphs. Usually, because we are going to write 150 words, if we consider these two paragraphs, each 30, 40 words, that would mean like half of the word count you need will be occupied by your introduction, which is going to be the opening statement or opening paragraph, and then the closing paragraph. And this you will be left with just one paragraph. So in this paragraph, in the normal scenario, you can state, you can come up with the problems, but it's a bad idea that you need to say, okay, we have these problems, and then for each problem, you need to come up with a solution in the same paragraph. For this, you need a good topic sentence to cover all of them. And this is very tricky to do. It's not impossible, but this is hard. Instead, allow me to suggest an alternative. Okay, so let's for now forget this method. I'm going to introduce a second body paragraph. So we have two body paragraphs. We have, I'm going to push them all up because I need my valediction in the end. All right, all good. So what happens here? What happens now is that I am going to state the problems. This is problem 1 and problem 2 in one paragraph. And I'm going to have my topic sentence, and I'm just going to say that in this paragraph, I'm going to focus on these two problems. And then I'm going to come up with the possible solutions. And for that, you can also say that I would like to mention that there are possible solutions. These are the things that come to my head. And you have a paragraph for your solutions. You can see that I don't pair problem with the solution in one paragraph because that is very difficult to do. Very, very difficult. It's a lot easier to just pair problems in one paragraph and pair another solutions or the basically other solutions in another paragraph. You may, in this case, it's even easy. It's even easier to introduce the third problem if you want, and you can come up with a third solution. That's about it, but I don't recommend because again, you're going to need 150, and by this strategy, you're going to end up with 220 words. That is still acceptable. So I would advise not to go ahead with a third problem and a third solution because we simply run out of time. So this is what we end up with. Now, no, I haven't forgotten the third bullet point. Once this is over, remember that the whole goal of this was to have a collective action for solving these, and you're just giving some hints on the solutions to show that you're proactive. You don't just raise you don't just voice concerns. You don't raise problems and nag and you don't do anything. You have already taken some action. You have already thought of some possible solutions. Maybe you have called some people. Maybe you have a friend who works in CCTV business. Maybe you know somebody who knows an organization that through that you can hire some security guards, or you can go into a contract to repair the pavement in the area, or you can introduce some interesting games to your children, and it's budget. You don't have to spend a lot of money by getting a membership for this playground or this sports club. All the children can play there, and they don't need to stay in the parking area. So those are the solutions that you can say. Then you go ahead and write your closing paragraph. And in the closing paragraph, what matters is that you still need to first say a closing statement. Now, a closing statement would be, in this particular case, something that I look forward to meeting you and discussing these problems and solutions. And right after that, you can say about the date and the time of the meeting. And you can propose, because that's what the rubric tells us. You need to propose a date and time for that. So that's also this is also a good place to say. And you can suggest, I believe Sundays are off, so we can all meet on Sunday, I don't know, afternoon, um, at this point, at this hour, sorry, in this location, or everyone can join us. We are having this little party. You can come over for some coffee or afternoon tea, and we can discuss the details. And finally, end your letter with an expression of gratitude. You need to thank them for reading this letter. That's the formal tone. You started by saying why you are reading, and that individual has so far read all your sentences and all the elements. So, and in the end, you need to thank them for the time. You need to thank them for something. Even if you are writing for the worst manager on the planet, you still need to show gratitude that this guy spent some time of their life, their miserable life, to read your letter. So, and you also put them to shame by showing them that you are a polite individual. You thank them. They don't deserve it, but you deserve respect. And that's why you end your letter by thanking them, by showing some level of gratitude. In this particular case, you can show this gratitude to the neighbors, that they that they listen to you. They may have had the same concern, but they didn't have the courage to say it out loud. So now you're saying it out loud. You need to thank them for understanding the same concerns. You need to thank them for being such good neighbors. You need to thank them for something, basically. And then you finish the entire letter by saying a valediction, which in this case, you can say regards, best regards, kind regards. That's very safe. You don't know the names of these people, so don't write sincerely yours or yours sincerely. That's very formal for when you actually know the individual and you address a certain individual. That's it. I hope you have learned a lot. You know how to organize your letter now. Give this letter a try. If you wish to see a sample of this letter done and improved on IELTS Juice, click over here. If you want to see more planning, you might want to see how to plan your essays. There are other samples over here. And remember, as always, eat healthy.